Welcome to the Jillian Greyse Show, the podcast that doesn't just inform, it transforms. I'm Jillian Greyse, frequency architect, multi-dimensional strategist, and your guide through the unseen layers of reality. Each episode is a living transmission, crafted to rewrite your patterns, recalibrate your field, and activate the truth encoded in your DNA. We'll navigate the energetic architecture behind relationships, trauma, intuition, purpose, and power, and close with a guided activation to embed the shift into your system. This isn't self-help, it's subconscious reprogramming. This isn't coaching, it's timeline engineering. This isn't content, it's a frequency shift. And if you're done with surface level advice, if you're craving depth, data, and divine disruption, if you're ready to stop performing and start embodying, you're exactly where you need to be. My name is Jillian Greyse, and I'll see you there. Before we drop in, a quick note on the name shift. This podcast began as Rewrite Reality with Jillian Greyse, but then others started launching copycat shows under a similar name, trying to capitalize on my framework, my voice, and my intellectual property, and I decided to make the pivot. Not out of fear, but out of precision. Because when your signal's that strong, people will try to replicate it. But this frequency can't be faked, and this blueprint can't be borrowed. Moving forward, this transmission will be called The Jillian Greyse Show because my name isn't just a label. It's a signature, it's a signal, and it's a claim of power in the space that we helped architect. Same content, same power, same knowledge, but now it's unmistakably ours. Welcome to the original transmission, the one that started it, the one that leads it. Now let's drop in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Jillian Greyse Show. On this episode, I'm going to be chatting about a social narrative that everyone buys into. And I'm going to be challenging it because that's what we do here. We look at something from the energy that is underneath it, and we peel back the layers to see exactly what it's trying to pull through inside of us. And from there, you can decide what's right for you and what isn't right for you. But the most important part of what we chat about is how you get to know yourself, your beliefs, and your vibration even deeper. So we're going to focus on the concept of college. And we're going to be peeling back the layers on if it's something that you need, if it's something you've been told you're supposed to expect to have, and how important it's going to be as we move forward in a culture that's becoming far less driven by analytics and much more focused on creation. First, I want to give you some background just so that you can have an understanding of how much, for me, it's important to relay energetic information as unbiased as possible. And what I mean by that is to give you the frequency facts, not the society-driven concepts, not what's been pushed in the narrative, the actual frequency behind what choices we make, why we make them, and sometimes why we're actually primed to make the decisions that we are. What's behind the scenes that's sort of forcing that thought process to be able to grow and manifest in our experience. I live in the real world with all of you. I am a parent as well. I myself have a college degree, so does my husband. My children are both very much aware of the process of college. My oldest is currently in college. My youngest is about to begin her college career process. This is not an attack on college in general. It's becoming aware of what position college is designed to serve and what that energetic position is going to be and turn into the more we continue down the roads that we're continuing down in society, and the more that we grow in the frequency that we are headed into, in the direction that we are all being pulled towards. My objective is to give you the frequencies of it so that you understand when you are coaching your child, or if you are in high school right now, or if you are looking at being in college and you're not having the time of your life, it's not what you expected. It's to give you the energy on why and how you should be looking at it so that it can work for you instead of trying to shift you or change you to be against the true you. So a long time ago, when our grandparents were given the idea or the concept of going to college, There wasn't ways to connect with other people, and there were no ways on a wide scale to really become networked with people outside of your current community. So there was no internet. There were no options for you to get on social media and expand your inner circle with different pages and different groups. The way you met people that could potentially become individuals you worked with, or individuals you could start businesses with, or people who could then hire you, was going to a large scale university. Because prior to that, you were in a small high school that had maybe a couple hundred kids in it. Maybe if you live someplace extremely populated, 1,000 or so kids in it, and that would be your pool. So people wanted more. They wanted more connections, they wanted to deepen those connections, and they wanted to expand their inner circles. In comes college. Perfect opportunity to be able to bring people from all over the world that are potentially like-minded but also different and place them in a melting pot situation so that they could expand. That was prior to having access to anything and anyone from any country at any moment in the touch of your fingertips. So the original purpose for college was a very strong social focus. That social focus has since shifted because what we need from those universities, we're able to get in any situation, including network meetups around any area that you're currently in that can be orchestrated from people all over the world. We have different capabilities now. So then college had to change its narrative. It had to change its tone. It had to reposition itself like a brand. And the difficult part about understanding college is it isn't in higher education where you are going to be expanding the knowledge you have about the field you're going into. Can it be for some fields? Yes. Those heavy analytical fields need that college focus to provide you the materials. Now, we're going to talk in a little bit about how that's shifting. But right now, we want to stay on topic about how colleges have rebranded themselves since there has been so much more social interaction. So at some point, we no longer needed the institution of a college to make those connections that were once so vitally important for our future careers. And when that happened, college had to rebrand itself. And it rebranded itself as a social network place to get away from your family, to break yourself from your norms, and to party. And when that happened, so much about the college experience drifted away from being able to start a future and turned into a way to create habits that cause you to struggle for the remainder of your future. And by creating habits, I mean not only becoming addicted to certain types of drugs, legal and illegal, but also to have certain habits that weren't going to benefit you long term. Now, I want to pop out a little sidebar fun fact to parents out there that have kids in colleges right now that are struggling, and extending on this concept of how they're exposed to substances that eventually will become a detriment to their health. By the time today's youth is age 25, it is estimated that 40% of college students report the usage of Adderall, often without a prescription, and have also used prescription stimulants and other mental health medications on a regular basis. We are taking people in the beginning of them getting to know themselves. We are removing them from their known environment. We are watching them struggle, and we're drugging them to keep them there. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only one who's watching this. And maybe it's because I see it on a broader scale, because I deal and work with so many of today's youth that are in that addictive pattern, and they're trying to break away from it because they feel lost. But I can't express to parents more the need to set their ego aside and to wake up about what is being pushed for children to do, and how we have the ability to shift that narrative if we can get out of our own dated principles that no longer serve today's culture. At some point, college became a place that was no longer preparing you for the world. It was instead breaking you from the structure of the people around you that love you and placing you in an environment when you were both weak and unable to focus in the direction that you wanted to and fill you with ideas that weren't going to complement your future growth. Before we continue, let's take a breath. You're here for a reason, not by accident, not by coincidence, but through divine orchestration, and these words were meant for you. This is your moment to rewrite humanity. Think of one soul in your life who needs this transmission and send them this podcast episode now. There are so many out there who are silently struggling. Our role is to reach them, to ignite something ancient and true. Whether it's someone you love, someone lost in the noise, or someone ready to remember who they are, this is your chance. Because vibrational awareness doesn't just shift minds, it realigns lifelines. It reawakens paths. It reconnects souls to their original blueprint. Be the bearer of that light. It isn't just generous, it's sacred work. Share this, speak it, seed it. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. Let's rewrite humanity together, one frequency, one soul, one remembrance at a time. Now we continue. That's the hard truth about college. And it's difficult to understand that because so many people have had different experiences in college. But for a lot of those individuals, except for those with analytical positions, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but everyone else who went on to any type of a creative position in their life, when they look back, they almost never use that very expensive piece of paper that we were all drawn into because our parents were told it was what was best. And the generation above, so your boomer generation, and even a little bit younger than that, they weren't your think for yourself crowd. They were the information given to them was the information they repeated because there wasn't a vast amount of information for them to draw from. So it wasn't their fault. They just lacked the knowledge to be able to get more information from deeper sources. You had to go to the library to research something. There was very limited ways for you to get statistical information or any type of facts. You couldn't find those things unless they were in your local paper, in a magazine, which I think we all know that the information that was provided to people in magazines from the news and from any type of local paper, all of that was propaganda. So many people don't even bother listening to the news anymore. It's become the largest source of fake news is actually network news. So we've learned that the information we were getting was not for our highest good. It wasn't to circuit us into that next plane so that we can become better individuals. And through that, you created this culture of people who started to push on the narrative. And we are now watching that narrative unwind. However, we're also still caught in it. And I'm seeing so many parents still feed their kids the wrong information. Even though their experience mirrored a different result, they're still trying to put their children through the same experience because that is where you get notoriety. That is where, as a parent, when you ego invest in your child, which is something I always tell people to be very aware of. Your child is a sovereign individual soul. Their accomplishments are their own. Their life is their decisions. And when you ego invest in your child, you're going to eventually find a relationship that's based on something that falls apart. So it's extremely important to understand that your children have their own path. They are fully grown souls, and they're very well aware of the destination. So when parents push them to do things that did not work for their generation. So we have groups of children in their 20s and below that look at their parents who are absolutely miserable, yet want them to follow the exact same process. And the credibility that gets lost in that relationship on a soul level is remarkable. And the parents don't see it. They don't see how when you feed this current generation lies, it can be detected that it's a lie just based on the words coming out of your mouth. They can feel the truth. They have the ability to see things from different angles that when the previous generations that were really force-fed information and had no way of opening and expanding to find out if that knowledge was true or where it came from, they just accepted. We are in an entirely different landscape right now. Therefore, when we're trying to create the same patterns with the youth that are coming up today, and we're trying to push the same narrative. It is being shut down all over the place, and rightfully so, which is very annoying to say to parents these days. Trust me, I do this a lot in my private sessions. I have a vast amount of people right now who have children that are in their teens, and their teens are struggling with some of the questions being asked by, of course, the schools that are very outdated, that don't provide information that are going to make actual functioning adults any longer. And I see these parents just so angry at their children for being more intelligent than the information that they're getting. And it's such an unfair balance to have. And it's a very poor relationship to start with your children. Now, I mentioned many times that aspect of college where the analytical part actually made sense. So there was a time where you had a future if you were going to go to college to be an accountant, if you were going to go to college to be a lawyer, if you were going to college to be computer programmer. There was a time where those were analytical things that needed to be learned in order for the process of what you were doing to have some level of success. We're at the age of AI, which is an unpredictable territory for all of us. But there are some things that we already see that are shifting dramatically, and that is the presence of analytical jobs and how important they will be in our future and the positions that will be available for humans to fill those employment opportunities. And I don't know about any of you, and I find that a lot of people that are kind of in that millennial age group and above are really just ignorant to AI. Like they don't even want to use it. They think it's something that's, going to go away. They think it's terrible. But when you can actually use it and you can work with it, you see the holes that it's going to be able to fill that are going to be undeniable in the future growth that we are going to be experiencing as a culture and as a collective on this planet. Your analytical positions are no longer going to be necessary in 90% of the cases. Will there be one individual that reviews what AI comes forward with when asked a question? Sure. There will still be one corporate lawyer who, when they type in something in specific, it will run through every single law because you are never going to be able to remember more than a computer. Whether you like it or not, in the world of analytics, computers, they got us every time because that's not our purpose. A human's purpose is sovereign creation. It's to put your individual imprint on this planet in a way that will forever change the world that we're living in. We were never designed to repeat back numbers. We weren't designed to memorize rules. We were designed to be the free, powerful creators that every one of us are. And the current generation coming up, that's in their DNA. It can't be hidden. It was in all of our DNA. But a lot of us were brainwashed out of it because the narrative was stronger than the collective. But that narrative strength ended as soon as the internet started. And vast information started to spill over into and onto groups of people that it was never intended to be exposed to. And that's why there was that whole the internet's a horrible place push that came out in the narrative for a little while, because it wasn't to protect us. When you see something that's in the news or you see something that is becoming increasingly the popular thing to say, 9 out of 10 times that's coming from a place of trying to redirect your focus and not for your own good or shift the way society is thinking. And we've known this for a while. People who understand energetics, and there's been more than enough disclosed CIA projects to prove the fact that from a government standpoint, there's a very solid understanding of the power of the collective energy and collective thought. And I go into those in a lot of the podcasts when I talk about the Stargate program with the CIA, and there's plenty other ones. So I don't want to go down that road, especially for those who have been listening since the beginning, because it's going to be ultra repetitive. But there is an understanding and awareness of what having the collective focused in one direction can do for whatever type of goal you're trying to achieve. There's strength in numbers because our thoughts carry frequency. And when those thoughts are funneled in certain directions, they create strength for whatever we want to build. The question is, we've been building the future that someone else has been telling us to build for far too long. And it's time for us to start building the future for ourselves, which is what we talk about on a weekly basis on this podcast, how you can become the architect of that future by using the energy and the frequency that our ancients knew, that our own governmental systems are well aware of, but you can start using that back in your own direction so that you can create an inner power that's unstoppable. That's our goal. So when we look at college and what it does for a child or for a teenager or for a young adult at this stage in the existence of our current landscape of where we're going as a collective, it offers very little to no value. So it's very hard to push a narrative that is not real, is not helpful, and doesn't fit into the landscape of the future. That being said, I'm a parent. So I'm well aware of what will allow my child to have confidence. And that's truly how college should be positioned if you're a parent and you're talking with your child about those steps into college. College is not going to be what separates them from the crowd and gives them an edge any longer, because that's not what the future is going to feed any type of currency towards. Currency is going to be fed towards authenticity. It's going to be fed towards emotional intelligence, because the analytics and the ability to understand systems is no longer going to be something that humans need to consume. So when you are promoting the old narratives, you're going to find that there's a struggle between making that connect with your children. So for me, when I am coaching anyone who either has children that are headed into college, or when I am coaching students who are ready to go to college, or even students that are currently in college, I always tell them that college needs to be viewed as a way to gain the confidence that's necessary to take those next steps. It is not to be viewed as something that you have to do in order to add value to who you are as a person. We live in a society that still values that type of education to some extent. And it's not the younger generations. So that's slowly going to be dissipating. But we're in the middle of a gap, or we've got to bridge the gap between the old and the new. And in order to bridge that gap, in some level, you have to honor that it's there. And there is a lot of information emotionally that can be derived from understanding that that's a necessary gap. Every generation has one. For us, that generation is that those in generations before are going to view higher education as something of value. So when you're interacting, when you're connecting with people from that generation, you're going to have more confidence when you have what they have behind you. You're going to have more confidence in a job interview. You're going to be able to learn to speak to people in a way that's on their level, and emotional intelligence is key. So that is one reason why having a college education still has some level of value. Should you send your children away to college or promote them to be isolated in a different area from their family? Absolutely not. When you take them from an environment of safety and you place them someplace where they are unfamiliar with the energy of other individuals that also feel that same way, it's a recipe for failure. Emotionally, it's a recipe for failure. Long term, and the habits that are created from it is a recipe for failure. And they are not going to become better functioning adults by breaking them from everything that they know at a time when they're extremely vulnerable. You're going to find that they are exactly that, extremely vulnerable and extremely impressionable. And that is a platform for why there is so many mental health conditions amongst our youth right now. Simply take a look at what is happening. The way we are pushing, the way we are telling this generation what is necessary in order to be successful, only to watch them be less successful than the previous generation, means that there is a gap in the information that we believe that we know and what the reality is in front of them. Being aware of what that is makes you in control of how that energy flows. So you can decide how you want to direct it when you are positioning yourself in a way that is designed to help your child or to help yourself make better decisions on navigating your future. To sum it up, is college something that you're going to need long term? No. Is it something you're going to need short term right now? Yes. Are there ways to do it that help to build your energy in the right way? Absolutely. Anything that supports the fact that you're building confidence in life is key. So for me, and what works for the kind of relationship that I have cultivated with my children is I am always open and honest. I explain to them that college is a box that needs to be checked just like high school, that the objective of going there is to have confidence and create confidence from within. So when they're speaking to other individuals who are college educated, who are still caught up in that narrative, who do still wear that like a badge of honor, which is a dying group, there's going to be a resurgence, especially in their generation, of people who are looking for more creative authenticity. And those diplomas are not going to mean as much. However, kids today are still going to be employed by the previous narratives generation that believed and solely accepted that there was some kind of egoic power that got exchanged with a college piece of paper that made you better than other people. Therefore, because we have to still commingle amongst one another, it's important to be able to honor both sides of those generations. I make it very clear to the children that I work with, as well as my own children, that when they are embarking upon going to college, some things to really look at is to not take your grades so seriously. Yes, pass. You don't want to waste the money. But do it as inexpensively as possible and in a way that, especially if you're not interested in the topic, you just get by, so that you can focus in your outer life on things that actually will build you towards a future, things you're creatively involved in, things that make you feel alive. So don't waste time trying to study to get an A. Set aside time to make sure that you pass, but spend most of your time feeding the part of you that makes you feel like life is worth living. The part of you that you could do all night long, that you could learn more about if no one was in the room for hours and hours and hours, that you would be lost in, that you could nerd out on, that makes you feel like you're a soul and not just a human. Make sure that as you're moving through the stages in life that are necessary, that you keep that part of you alive. Let that part become your college. Let that part of you become your higher learning. And look at that diploma as just a way to get through the red tape so that you can have the confidence you need in order to expand in the world, in the life that you're here to architect. And this is going to go out to all of those teens, young adults, and even parents out there that are struggling with that already. What do you want to do next in life question? Or what happens after this question that seems to be constantly fed to the youth, even though the answer to that question is never really available to you. Life is an experience. It isn't a title. So when you try to make it a title, no matter what words you give it, they don't fit. But for those of you out there who are still struggling with this, but feel it in your heart, there's a lot of studies that are now coming out to really amplify this understanding. One of my most favorite was just released by the Harvard Business Journal. Nonetheless, one of the main schools out there that got notoriety based on title. And when you really dig into the background, it's actually very disturbing, but we're not going to get into that here. However, their own research indicated some very interesting things about the most successful entrepreneurs today. Those qualities that they have, and this is directly from this article, one of the main things is that most successful founders had above average intelligence, but terrible report cards. They questioned everything. They wanted to know what value something came from. They questioned everything and focused a lot on the intuition of whether or not something didn't feel right when they heard it. They got restless if information felt pointless. They would often run information that they were hearing past a spell check of, what am I going to use this for someday? And if the answer to that was nothing, then they had a keen understanding of that and they would completely shut down. They would check any material that seemed untruthful. Can you imagine, funnel back to your childhood, if you fact checked the material that the teachers who were wasting all of our time provided us, you are going to find that, at least for my childhood, a solid 70% has been either debunked, disproven, or were blatant lies. That's hard for someone who's intelligent to have to sit and absorb, because when you have a level of intelligence, you usually have a level of intuition as well. So you know when someone is giving you misinformation. And something that is shown, especially in this particular study, is that people who do that and thought like that were far more successful entrepreneurs than those who did not. The most successful entrepreneurs also found that learning something new or making something new was more important than learning something that already existed or learning about things that already existed. Because again, we're wired to be creators. It's wonderful to know about what is also here that we can use, but the objective is to use that towards our own creative abilities, not to focus solely on that and then learn every aspect of it until we're worn out and there's no more area in our brain to hold information that can help us truly expand. Last but not least, another great way of knowing that you are going to be a successful entrepreneur someday is how much you push back when everyone else follows directions. And I want you to take a moment to think about that, because we recently went through an event in the United States in 2019, and I can't really say anything in specific because the algorithm and the censorship is real, everybody. I see it all the time. There are certain things that I have brought up during podcasts. There's certain things I've brought up during classes. And if I say certain words, that video gets completely buried. Sometimes it gets flagged. I just actually did this when I was talking about the situation that occurred in New York, and I won't say the words. That podcast, I had to jump through hoops to get YouTube to even list. And I did not say anything outside of the energetics of a certain topic. So it was, of course, it's very real, especially if you're on my end, the creator end of things. But when we went through what we went through in 2019, there were a lot of people that pushed back on that narrative. And if you are aware of psychological operations, and there are certain qualifications that you can hold a narrative up to see if it's part of a psychological operation. One of the first things that when the narrative is trying to push out information, they do is they demonize the other side of what's being said. And that's why that cancel culture is so challenging and so debilitating and so detrimental to our society's growth. Because if you can teach people to cancel things just based on saying something that's different from what you say, then you can drive the narrative in any direction you want. The fringe thinkers are the ones who often disclose or bring information to the forefront that was previously trying to be hidden. So giving everyone their platform of being able to speak their truth is extremely important. And in this particular study through Harvard Business Journal, the amplification of that personality, someone who pushes back against information when everyone follows direction, showing that you're a future leader, showing that you're a future creator, showing that you're a future entrepreneur, is huge. So I want to really encourage all of you, whether you are beginning those first stages in life, whether you are an adult who's parenting right now, a child that's in that stage of life, whether you're someone who's thinking of changing your career later on in life. I want you to become very aware of those qualities and those qualifications so that you can make decisions from yourself and you can focus your energy on the creation that you're here to do. And if you are right now holding space for the future of this world to grow and expand, so all of the parents out there, I want you to consider celebrating children that are outside of the normal narrative. And when your child comes home with a report card that's based on some type of a math that they are literally never going to use and they barely passed, I want you to say, good job, because they didn't waste their creative amplification or abilities on something that is not going to matter and that a computer will be able to do in their future within 30 seconds. So let's focus a little bit less on teaching our children to waste their time and a little bit more on teaching them to build their own character, teaching them to expand their emotional intelligence, and most of all, to step into the creators that they are. Okay, now we're going to do what we do at the end of every podcast, which is a guided exchange where I'm going to be talking you through opening up to your own authenticity, your own creative flow. Because you can't possibly teach your children to have that flow, and you can't embody that flow for yourself unless you awaken it within you. So for the next few minutes, we're going to join together and we are going to honor that part of us and allow our energy to be focused on it so that it can expand and it can become an energy within us that we feed and nurture as we move forward. Begin by noticing your breath as a rhythm, like a drum beat. Inhale, feel the rise. Exhale, feel the fall. Imagine your breath as steady percussion, keeping time for your creative energy. Picture yourself walking through a forest path. Each step crunches leaves behind your feet. With every step, you hear whispers, fragments of your inner narrative calling out. A phrase, an image, a memory, a part of you that is creative and is waiting to come back alive. Moments to reflect on things you enjoy, things that make your heart expand, things that remind you of the truth within you. Let them drift in without judgment. This forest is alive with your stories. It's alive with your inner truth. It's alive with your creation. All of it is waiting to be gathered. As you're walking through the forest, you arrive at a flowing river. Sit by its edge. Watch how the water carries branches and leaves and reflections. Each passing ripple is an idea, a creative spark. Reach out, cup your hands full of water, and feel the inspiration flow into you. Whisper silently, I am a vessel. I am a storyteller. I am in flow. Stand again in the forest's path with the drum beat of your breath guiding you back. You carry the whispers, the river's flow, the rhythm of creation within you. The leaves that fall that dance around you, the trees that stand and tower over you, they are all a part of you. Welcome in the creation that they are called to bring back to you. Take one last deep breath and inhale. Exhale with gratitude. And when you open your eyes, know that your inner narrative is alive and ready to be expressed. Your creation isn't above you. It's within your rhythm, your steps, your stories. Trust the forest of your imagination and let the narrative expand with every breath. You're the creator here, And part of stepping into that is making a conscious awareness that the creation around you that is pushed to you through the outer world deserves to be questioned. It deserves to be put through your own mind to decide whether or not it's something that you're open to following. To be the architect of your creation means to honor you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Jillian Greyse Show. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I didn't push at your current beliefs or thoughts too hard, and that you were able to remain open as we walked down this energetic understanding together and expanded our minds about the college narrative so that you can open up your understanding of it and decide what's best for you and your family. Don't forget, every Tuesday at 5 a.m., we drop a new episode. And next week's episode, I have already been planning, and I'm so excited to unveil it. We will chat about that next week. My name is Jillian Greyse, and thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to The Jillian Greyse Show. You've just experienced a frequency shift. Don't let it fade. If this episode moved something in you, share it. Send it to someone who's ready to remember who they are. And if you're called to go deeper, subscribe, leave a review, and stay tuned because this is just the beginning. I'm Jillian Greyse, and this is more than a show. It's a signal, it's a recalibration, and it's a return to your original blueprint. Until next time, stay aligned, stay awake, and keep architecting the reality that remembers you.